Hello and welcome to the Sleepy Narrator. I'm truly happy you've joined me tonight. Whether you're cozied up beneath soft blankets, lying under a peaceful night sky, or simply letting your thoughts begin to quiet down, this moment was created with you in mind. Before we begin, I'd be so thankful if you gave this video a gentle like and a warm little subscribe. It helps the channel float along softly into more calm corners of the night. And just for fun, I'd love to know, where in the world are you tuning in from? Let me know in the comments what city you're in and what time it is there. Are you winding down at 10 o'clock p.m. in Paris or barely staying awake at 2 o'clock a.m. in Los Angeles? Tonight we're setting off on a delicate kind of journey, not out to the stars or deep into ocean trenches, but somewhere closer, somewhere tucked quietly within your own mind. This story is about dreaming. But not just ordinary dreaming, it's about conscious dreaming. That gentle, curious experience where you know you're dreaming and you stay there, present, aware, floating inside your own imagination. It's a moment of silent wonder, backed not just by fantasy, but by the quiet workings of your sleeping brain. And this journey begins not inside the dream, but at the soft border of sleep, that place where you might already find yourself drifting. Let's begin there, at the edge, that hushed space between wakefulness and dreaming, where thoughts begin to tangle gently and the outside world slowly fades away. Science has a name for this threshold, the hypnagogic state. It's the in-between, like a flicker between knowing and letting go. A moment like dusk, when the sky can't decide if it's day or night. In this phase, the brain changes its rhythm. During full alertness, your brain hums with quick, sharp beta waves, swift and busy, like constant chatter. But as your body unwinds and your breath slows, gentler waves begin to surface. Alpha waves arrive first, a soft hum that sings your mind to rest. And then, as you drift deeper, theta waves start to flow in, carrying you with them. These waves are slower, smoother. They bring moments of memory, sparks of imagination, and blend them in surprising, shifting ways. You might notice a fleeting image, a stray sound, a half-thought without a clear beginning. Maybe a face you haven't seen in years. A figure changing form like ink in water. The echo of a name that isn't attached to any voice. But these aren't full dreams yet. They're fragments, the first whisper of something more. Like the soft rustle of instruments before a concert begins. In this space, your body and mind begin to separate, gently, without force. Your muscles start to release their grip, and your mind slowly lets go of the need to think or control. Sleep doesn't take you all at once. It eases in like fog rolling over a quiet field. It's a process your body knows instinctively. Your heart rate lowers, your temperature dips just a bit, and your senses blur into softness. Behind your closed eyes, your gaze might flicker, as if watching something invisible, something only your mind can see. Now you're floating, not fully awake, not fully asleep, balanced on a thin line of transition. And this space, this in-between, is where creative magic often happens. Artists, scientists, dreamers, they've lingered here, some on purpose, some by luck. Thomas Edison would hold metal balls in his hands as he nodded off. When he slipped too far into sleep, they'd fall and wake him, allowing him to snatch back whatever ideas had just begun to appear. Salvador Dali did something similar, letting his eyes half close, and capturing in paint the surreal visions that surfaced just before dreams began. This moment matters, because it brushes against two worlds at once. The structured world of waking thoughts and the wild, flowing world of dreams. You might notice an image beginning to take shape, and unlike a full dream, you might even know where it came from. A thought earlier in the day, a scent you noticed, a quiet memory stirred awake. This mix of the real and imagined, the remembered and the new, is the opening to lucid dreaming. Often, that shift begins here. When just as a dream is starting, you notice it, you recognize it. Wait, I'm dreaming. That simple realization can change everything, and you don't have to chase it. Trying too hard can push it away. Lucid dreaming isn't forced. It's allowed. You're not building the dream, you're stepping into one already forming. A room just taking shape, its walls not yet decided. And in that space, your awareness becomes the light, not a harsh light, but a quiet one. A calm glow that doesn't overwhelm, only illuminates. Lucid dreaming is when your waking self visits your dreaming world, not as an intruder, but as a gentle guest. Research tells us what happens during this moment. Brain scans show a small reawakening of the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for planning, for self-awareness, for reflection. In ordinary dreams, that part dims. But during a lucid dream, it flickers back to life, like a candle burning low in the corner, just bright enough to remind you that you are still you. But this chapter isn't about trying to control the dream. Not yet. It's simply about noticing. How does sleep begin to feel? What is it like when awareness begins to rest? This noticing is quiet. It doesn't grasp or push. It observes. It breathes. You might now feel your body still and soft. A pleasant heaviness, or perhaps a sensation of fading altogether, as if you're slipping into something vast and still. That's where we're going. There's no rush. In fact, the slower we go, the more clearly we can see the mind's subtle shifts. Like snowflakes drifting in slow motion, like the whisper of air through tall reeds. Sleep isn't a light switch. It's a shoreline, and each breath carries you farther from the shore. Lucid dreaming awaits somewhere just beyond that horizon. But before we step into it fully, we must understand the rhythm of sleep, the architecture of the night. As you continue to settle now, you might sense a small tug inward, an invitation to go deeper. And maybe you wonder, what comes next? What begins once you pass fully into sleep? So with your breath soft and even, we continue soon into the place where dreams truly begin to grow, where your eyes move under closed lids even as your body rests still, and quiet stories begin their gentle unfolding. The room around you is still. Your body rests like a leaf caught in twilight, and something old and patient stirs inside you. This isn't silence, not really. It's a softer kind of music, a steady, quiet rhythm created by your resting mind. Even now, as sleep deepens, your brain is not asleep in the way machines power down. It's not off, it's active in another way. Neurons still fire, electrical signals still move, patterns emerge, vanish, return again. Some parts of the brain dim, others awaken. Whole cities of thought darken while distant lights flicker on like stars. Let's walk gently through this nighttime city. As sleep overtakes you, your brain travels through phases. Not all at once, but like waves. First comes light sleep, then deeper sleep, then the strange, fascinating rhythm of REM, rapid eye movement. These cycles repeat through the night, flowing and returning like tides. But for now, we pause in the early part, where deep sleep begins to settle in. In this calm stage, your brain produces delta waves, the slowest, deepest waves it can make, like the sea when the winds have stilled, like a heartbeat stretched across time. Delta waves signal restoration. Your muscles relax, your immune system resets, cells begin repair, and all the while your brain hums quietly in this slow, steady rhythm. Your conscious mind, your everyday spark, isn't gone, it's simply gone deeper. Thoughts that once jumped and danced now stretch and drift. Time begins to slow down inside you. And you might ask, if I'm not awake, if I'm not dreaming yet, where exactly am I? You're in the cradle of your nervous system. You're resting inside the part of your mind that breathes your body, keeps your heart steady, and holds you gently warm. Even here, something lingers, a watcher, a whisper of self. There is growing evidence that even in the deepest sleep, the brain is never fully off. So in deep sleep, your mind is not simply resting. It's listening, repairing, drifting. You remain you, only quieter. And so we drift ever deeper, toward the edge of the dream that's waiting. It is remembering, it is sorting. It is listening to the echoes of your day and quietly choosing what to keep. It lets go of the clutter, the misplaced sock, the tune from the cafe, and holds on to what matters, a new idea, a deep feeling, a subtle shift in how you see yourself. Sleep isn't forgetting, it's choosing. In this stage, your hippocampus, your brain's memory librarian, works closely with the cortex, the seat of thought. Together, they replay moments like a melody. Again and again, they reinforce the tune until it becomes part of your internal song. So even while your eyes are closed and your body still, your mind is learning. Not loudly, like in classrooms, but quietly, like roots spreading beneath the earth. This is also when your brain begins to clean itself, literally. During deep sleep, cerebrospinal fluid flows through, washing away waste proteins and neural clutter. It's like a soft tide sweeping the streets of your inner city while its people slumber. This cleansing is crucial. Without it, your thoughts cloud, your mood stumbles. Sleep is the mind's renewal, unseen, yet utterly essential. But it isn't only maintenance. Something deeper is stirring, something harder to trace. The dreamless parts of sleep, those without images or story, remain a mystery. You may not recall them, but you awaken changed, softer, calmer, more whole. Some theories suggest this dreamless sleep is where the self dissolves, not lost but diffused. The ego, the busy narrator of waking life, grows silent. What remains is presence. Not a story, just rest, just breath, just being. Still, through it all, the brain holds a spark. A trace of awareness never fully fades. You see it in light sleepers, in those who stir at a whisper, in brain scans of meditating monks, their minds quiet but alert. Even in sleep, some part of us listens. This is the root of lucidity, that small, flickering watcher. It's faint, but with care, with curiosity, you can feel it. And if you're gentle, you can carry it into the next phase of sleep. That phase is REM, the place where stories bloom, where your mind becomes a stage and your thoughts wear costumes, where logic retreats and imagination leads. But before we enter that world, linger here, in the quiet miracle of a brain not yet dreaming but gently preparing. Because soon your sleeping mind will awaken again, not in this world but another, a dream, a vivid, flickering world moving to its own rhythm. And perhaps you will notice the moment the dream begins and recognize it for what it is. So let your breath deepen now. Let your body settle further. And as you do, sense the next wave drawing near, the one that carries color and motion and story into the stillness. It's coming, you may even feel it now. A shift behind your closed eyes, a stirring waiting to unfold. You lie still, yet your mind is waking. A ripple stirs behind your eyes. Your body is cradled in stillness, but within a change is rising. Slow, gentle, rhythmic, like moonlight easing into a darkened room. This is REM sleep, rapid eye movement, a paradox, a poem told through neurons. It's when the brain becomes luminous, electric, alive, and yet the body stills. Here, your mind is more active than during much of your day. Energy use climbs, nearly matching waking levels. Regions flare with activity, the visual cortex, the emotion centers, the memory systems, even parts of movement itself. It's as if your brain is rehearsing dreams, but your body remains offstage, perfectly still. And so it obeys. Your body slips into gentle paralysis, a condition called atonia. The connection between brain commands and muscles softens, quiets, grows hushed. You may dream of running, but your legs stay still. You might fly through skies, but your arms never move. This is not a flaw. It is a safeguard, a thoughtful pause from nature to keep your dreaming self safe inside the bounds of sleep. And oh, the dreams that come. They arrive unbidden. Their logic bends. A hallway leads to the sea. A friend wears the face of your younger self. Emotions swell and fade. Joy, fear, longing, raw and immediate. You drift through these scenes like a traveler without a map. Yet everything feels real, undeniable. What's remarkable is how vivid it all is, how deeply you feel it. Studies show that during REM, the visual centers are highly active. The brain turns inward, drawing with its own light, painting color and shadow from memory and invention. And it's not just sight. Sounds rise from nowhere, music never heard before, voices built from memory fragments, languages that vanish upon waking. The auditory cortex joins the dream too, spinning a world of sound. But dreams aren't just sensory. They pulse with emotion. The limbic system, your feeling center, glows brightly in REM. The amygdala, the thalamus, the hippocampus, they stir symbols, memories, feelings. That's why dreams feel meaningful, even when they're nonsense. A feather in your hand, a letter from someone long gone. They carry weight, not of logic, but of feeling. And yet one part of the brain stays dim. The dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the area for logic, judgment, and self-reflection. In waking life, it's your compass. In REM, it rests. Without it, you drift, accepting absurdity, letting the world bend, never questioning. That's why dreams feel like stories you never wrote but somehow know. But sometimes, just sometimes, that spark flickers back to life. A faint glow, a pulse. And when it does, something rare happens. Lucidity. In that liminal space, you may realize you're dreaming. And because REM dreams are so rich, so full of color and feeling, that recognition becomes awe. Like stepping inside a painting and suddenly seeing the brush strokes. The dream continues, but now you see it. You might test it. Push your finger through a wall. Breathe through a pinched nose. You might even speak to the dream, ask it questions, explore its logic, and it listens. The dream always listens, but before lucidity can bloom, there must first be the dream. This strange, fertile, wondrous terrain. And REM is its soil. It gives space, chemistry, silence, and freedom for imagination to stretch its wings. There's another hidden gift here, memory weaving. In REM, your brain revisits life but stitches it anew. That's why your childhood room might hold yesterday's cafe. Your mind is editing, combining, experimenting. It's rehearsal, integration, a silent, profound kind of problem solving. Researchers believe REM is essential because of this. Without it, emotions stay jagged, unprocessed, but dreams let you reshape them, revisit pain, soften grief, reclaim strength. And still your body lies still, a sacred stillness. The world outside continues, but you're held in ancient rhythms. Rhythms shared with mammals, birds, even reptiles. REM is a shared inheritance. It connects you to all sleeping life. Now you may notice your breath, slow, measured. You may feel warmth in your chest, the soft pull of gravity. Even flickers behind your eyes, the flutter of unseen dreams. These movements aren't random. They reflect your dream gaze, the eyes of your sleeping self moving through imagined worlds. In labs, scientists watch these movements in wonder, because within them lie journeys, oceans crossed, mountains climbed, memories transformed. REM may feel distant when you're awake, but inside it, it feels like home. And maybe, just maybe, you'll notice the dream as it unfolds, and feel lucidity begin to rise. But lucidity never arrives alone. It begins with a flicker, a moment, a recognition that something is just slightly off. A hallway looping, a clock that won't hold still. What is that moment, really? What does it feel like to catch yourself dreaming? That is where we'll go next, to that first delicate flicker of lucidity, to the quiet instant when the dreamer begins to wake within the dream. There is a moment, fleeting and fragile, when something in the dream doesn't make sense. A small thing, a quiet dissonance. The sun shining at midnight, your feet not touching the ground, a friend's face shifting as they speak. And then a thought floats up, light as breath. This isn't real. And another, I believe I'm dreaming. This is the first flicker of lucidity. It doesn't burst in like a spotlight. It arrives like candlelight, soft, wavering, uncertain. The dream continues, but now you see it differently. You're no longer only inside the story, you're beside it, too, watching, noticing. The moment you recognize the dream as a dream, something shifts. You, the dreamer, become the observer. This moment may last only seconds or stretch across an entire dream. It may fade, as dreams often do, or deepen into clarity. Either way, it changes the rhythm of sleep. Your awareness has returned, not fully awake, but no longer fully lost. Science tells us this shift is rare, but not unnatural. Brain imaging studies show that during lucid dreams, a quiet reactivation happens in the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that governs self-reflection, logic, and planning. In normal REM sleep, this region is mostly silent. But in lucidity, it wakes just enough, like a single violin joining an orchestra of drums. This reawakening is what allows the realization, I am inside a dream. Think of it like floating in a river. In regular dreams, you drift with the current, unaware of its direction. But with lucidity, you gently open your eyes under the water. You see the shape of the current. You notice the rocks and the sky above. You don't have to swim. Just seeing is enough to change the experience. What brings this awareness? Sometimes it's a dream sign, a recurring theme or pattern your brain recognizes. For some, it's the inability to read text. For others, it's the weightless feel of walking. The mind catches these oddities, compares them with waking life, and pings a signal. Something's different. Something is dreamlike. Other times, lucidity arises through habit, built gently during the day. People who practice reality checks while awake, asking themselves, "Am I dreaming?" may carry that question into sleep. And if they ask it in the right moment, they may find the answer. But lucidity doesn't always mean control, not right away. It begins with recognition. You don't need to shape the dream yet. You only need to witness it. And in that witnessing, something beautiful happens. The dream becomes more vivid. Colors brighten, details sharpen. You might notice the texture of leaves, the way light filters through water, the weight of imagined air. Lucidity brings clarity, not because the dream changes, but because you are suddenly, quietly present. There's a softness to this kind of awareness, a non-judging curiosity. You're not trying to fix the dream or force it. You're simply seeing it as it is. The floating city, the talking deer, the library where the books hum. You see and you remember, this is not real. And yet, it matters. Emotion often swells in this moment: joy, wonder, even fear. You may feel a rush of excitement, a realization that you're inside your own mind's creation. But excitement can be sharp. It can jolt you awake. And so many dreamers learn to breathe deeply, even within sleep, to stay calm, to rest inside awareness. Because the goal is not to conquer the dream. The goal is to remain, to stay long enough to explore. There's a word for this: dream stabilization. Some spin slowly, look at their hands, or touch the ground inside the dream to anchor themselves. These small acts of focus help root the lucid state, keeping the light steady. And what happens next varies. Some simply walk, some fly, some ask questions to dream figures, to the sky, to themselves. Some listen. Some watch their thoughts unfold like stories written in sand. But no matter what happens next, it all begins with this spark. This flicker of I know. This quiet return of self-awareness inside the wildness of dreaming. It's a mystery still. Why should the sleeping brain, meant for rest and repair, suddenly allow this island of clarity? Why should it awaken just enough to let us see, but not so much that we rise? Perhaps it is the mind's way of exploring itself. Or perhaps lucidity is simply a side effect, a beautiful accident of evolution. Whatever the reason, it is deeply human to notice, to wonder, to ask softly, even in sleep, what is this world I'm in? And just as the flicker begins, another question arises. What is happening in the brain during this moment? What stirs in the folds of gray matter when the self reappears in the sea of dreams? To understand lucidity, we must first understand the brain's own awakening, its gentle lights, its hidden symphony. So we'll go there next, into the science of self-awareness in sleep, and what your brain must do to remember that it is dreaming. The dream is fluid, unfolding like water in your hands, no beginning, no end, just motion. But suddenly, within this current, something steadies. A thought forms, not loud but certain. I am here. I am dreaming. How does this thought arrive? And more curiously, how does your brain produce it while the rest of you sleeps? To answer that, we drift gently into the folds of the brain, the quiet, curled architecture of self. During waking hours, your brain pulses with coordinated energy. Every sense, every memory, every moment of choice, all ripple through intricate circuits. But in sleep, the pattern changes. Your brain doesn't shut down, it reorganizes. Some areas rest while others ignite. Some voices go silent while others rise. In most dreams, the part of your brain responsible for self-awareness, the prefrontal cortex, dims. It's like a town closing its shops for the night. This region, located just behind your forehead, is your inner narrator. It helps you reason, reflect, weigh possibilities. It's what says, that can't be right, and I wonder why that happened. Without it, you accept the dream world fully without question. You run from monsters in familiar streets. You speak to people who are long gone. You live stories without realizing they are stories. But in lucid dreams, something changes. The prefrontal cortex lights up again, not brightly, but enough. It hums like a small lantern in the dark. Not enough to wake you, but just enough to let you notice. Scientific studies using fMRI and EEG imaging have found this difference. During lucid REM sleep, activity increases in the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the same region you use when solving problems, focusing attention, or reflecting on yourself. Other areas like the precuneus and inferior parietal lobes also show more activation. These regions are part of your brain's default mode network, a web that flickers when you're daydreaming, remembering, or imagining yourself in the future. Together, they create the mental stage for lucidity. They allow you to realize, I am not just inside this story, I am aware of it. But it's a delicate balance. Too much activation and you wake up. Too little and you slip back into passive dreaming. Lucid dreaming lives in the in-between, a shimmering boundary where awareness floats, untethered but present. It's like sailing at night. You cannot see the shore, but you feel the wind on your face and you know you're steering. Even more mysterious is how the brain manages this without losing the dream. The regions responsible for visual and emotional imagery, like the occipital lobe and amygdala, remain highly active. They continue to weave the dream's tapestry, painting landscapes and feelings. But now, the prefrontal cortex walks among them, quietly watching. It does not interrupt the story. It gently observes. It allows the dream to unfold while softly whispering, "This is a dream." This dual awareness is rare. Most of the time, you are either awake and analyzing or dreaming and flowing. Lucid dreaming is both. It is your brain holding two mirrors at once, reflection and imagination, allowing you to see yourself inside the dream without needing to escape it. And here, a new question arises. If your brain can become aware while asleep, does this mean that your consciousness, is never fully off? Some scientists believe that a subtle form of self may always remain, even in the deepest sleep, like a sentry keeping watch at the gates of awareness. And when conditions are just right, when waves ripple just so, when acetylcholine rises and serotonin dips, when the dream becomes just strange enough, this inner self stirs, peers into the fog and says, "Ah, I remember now." This moment may be supported by practice, through meditation, dream journaling, or simple intention. When you train your waking brain to reflect often to ask, "Am I dreaming?" During the day, you create neural pathways that may carry over into sleep. You are building bridges, not from wood or stone, but from neurons and habit. And over time, those bridges become familiar. You find your way across more often. There is also research exploring the role of gamma waves, fast brain waves associated with consciousness and insight. Some studies have found that during lucid dreams, gamma activity increases, especially across the frontal cortex. These waves may support the integration of awareness into sleep, creating the clarity that allows you to wake up inside the dream. But science can only measure so much. What you feel in lucidity is often more than what numbers can show. There's a depth to it, a sense of returning, not just waking, as if you found yourself in a world that has always been yours, just waiting for you to notice. And perhaps that is the quiet miracle of conscious dreaming. That awareness can survive even in the most fluid places. That memory and logic can drift into imagination. And instead of breaking the spell, they deepen it. The moment you realize you're dreaming isn't loud. It isn't grand. It's hard, like walking through fog and seeing your own footprints, reminding you that awareness is not a switch, but a candle. It can glow in the darkest places, even where you least expect it. And once it is lit, even once you begin to seek it again, you begin to wonder, can I go deeper? Can I move inside the dream? Can I shape it, steer it, explore it without waking? And that is where we go next, into the flowing logic of dreams, the language of symbols, and the shifting patterns that invite the lucid mind to wander. You find yourself in a hallway that leads to the sky. A river pours upward. A mirror shows someone you've never seen, yet feel you've always known. Welcome to the logic of dreams. Here, nothing follows the rules of daylight. Not quite. Things transform without asking. Time folds in on itself and objects wear feelings like clothing. In this strange and fluid place, the mind speaks its own native tongue, one not made of words but of symbols. Even in lucidity, when your awareness is awake, the world of dreams resists literal thinking. It prefers suggestion over instruction. It offers metaphors instead of explanations. And this is not a flaw. It is a feature. The dreaming brain is not trying to deceive you. It is communicating in the most ancient way it knows: image, pattern, sensation. During conscious dreaming, you become both the listener and the author of these symbols. You walk through a landscape crafted by your own subconscious. And as you do, you begin to notice how layered everything is. A locked door may not be a door at all. It may be a memory you've not yet opened. A missing staircase might speak of uncertainty or the need to rise but not yet knowing how. Your brain, in sleep, no longer holds tightly to the rational frameworks of waking life. Linear time, let it bend. Gravity, optional. Cause and effect, unnecessary. Instead, it speaks through metaphors, not out of confusion, but because metaphor holds more than one truth at a time. This is why dream symbols are so deeply personal. A red apple might mean nourishment to one person, temptation to another, or simply the smell of autumn in a long-lost childhood. There are shared symbols, of course: water for emotion, flying for freedom. But even these change color depending on who's dreaming them. In conscious dreaming, you begin to see these symbols not just as scenery, but as messages wrapped in imagination. And because you're aware, you can pause. You can ask questions. You can turn toward the cat who watches you and say, "What are you?" And sometimes something answers, not always in words but in feeling. Neurologically, these moments reflect deep interplay between emotion and memory. The amygdala, which colors your experiences with emotional tone, and the hippocampus, which holds your memories, are both active during REM sleep. They blend together, folding past and feeling into image. Dreams aren't just stories. They're emotional landscapes built from fragments of you. And lucidity brings something rare: the ability to interact with those fragments without losing your place inside them. You can navigate the symbolic world not as a tourist, but as a translator. Think of it like walking through a museum where every painting is a part of your inner life. Not just your memories, but your hopes, your hesitations, your forgotten thoughts. Each image, each moment, is a brushstroke made by your deeper mind. You, the lucid dreamer, walk from canvas to canvas, noticing what's been drawn, feeling the shape of meanings you may not yet have words for. And even when you don't understand right away, the dream keeps speaking. It doesn't need you to solve it, only to witness it, to listen softly without judgment. There's beauty in this type of understanding, the kind that comes without explanation. Like standing at the edge of a canyon and knowing it's vast, even if you can't name every stone. As a lucid dreamer, you learn to stay present with the shifting dream world. A door may turn into a pool of water. A staircase may become a vine. None of it stays still, but your awareness does. That awareness, steady but open, allows you to notice patterns. Perhaps every time you feel fear in a dream, a storm begins. Or when you feel love, the air grows warm. These aren't coincidences. They're your emotional truths given shape and story. In the brain, this is supported by networks that blend imagination with perception. Even though your eyes are closed, the occipital lobe, the part of the brain that processes vision, lights up as if you're truly seeing. But instead of receiving images from the outside, it's creating them from within. The same happens with sound. You may hear someone say your name in a dream, and the auditory cortex will process that voice as if it was spoken aloud. But it wasn't. It was created, full and real by your sleeping mind. In lucidity, you're aware of this duality, that the world around you feels real but is being built from inside your skull. This can be unsettling or liberating. You realize that your mind is not just a mirror, but a lantern, projecting its own visions into the space of sleep. And so you begin to trust the logic of dreams, not the logic of steps and syllables, but the logic of rhythm, pattern, and emotional resonance. You begin to wonder not just what is happening, but what is this dream showing me? And the symbols keep arriving. They don't need to be interpreted right away. Sometimes their meaning arrives weeks later, as a quiet insight during a morning walk, or a shift in how you feel when faced with an old fear. Dream logic doesn't explain, it reveals. And lucidity lets you walk its winding path with open eyes. So now you might ask, if I can understand the dream while dreaming, can I begin to move within it, shape it, guide it? That question waits just ahead, in the soft unfolding of control and surrender, where the lucid dreamer begins not only to see but to gently steer. You are standing still, and then without thinking you begin to rise, not with strain or noise but with a weightless grace, upward, effortless, as if the air itself has agreed to hold you. You're dreaming and you're flying. This is one of the most common desires and one of the most common joys in lucid dreams. To lift off, to float, to move unbound by gravity or doubt. And often it happens without planning. One moment you're walking, the next you're soaring through trees, over rooftops, through endless sky. There are no engines, no wings, no science fiction, just intention. And the body responds. But how does it know how? You've never flown in waking life, yet your dream body glides as if it remembers something, as if it was built for this. Inside your brain is a remarkable map, a sensory motor model of your entire body. It helps you walk, reach, balance, run. Even when you're still, your brain maintains a sense of where your limbs are, how your muscles might move, how your weight shifts through space. This is called proprioception, your inner sense of position and movement. In lucid dreams, this map is still active, but now it's free from physical constraints. The brain no longer receives signals from the outside world. Instead, it generates sensation from within. The feeling of floating. That may be your mind removing the gravity from its internal model. The smooth arc of flying, a blend of visual imagination and remembered motion. A leap you once made, a dive you saw in a film, the curve of a bird's wings in childhood memory. Your brain gathers these fragments and stitches them into flight. And it feels real because, in many ways, it is. Brain scans show that during vivid dream movement, motor regions activate as if you are truly moving. The premotor cortex prepares action. The cerebellum adjusts balance. Even your vestibular system, the network that helps you sense tilt, motion, and orientation, plays a quiet role. But in REM sleep, the connection between thought and muscle is paused. You're held safely in atonia, your muscles gently paralyzed to protect you from acting out dreams. So the mind creates movement without consequence. That's why flying in a lucid dream feels so smooth. No stumbling, no falling, only motion that answers thought directly. Want to go higher? You rise. Want to slow down? You drift. Direction is decided by desire, not by force, but by focus. And beneath it all is the mind's astonishing ability to simulate physical experience. Even without real motion, the body in the dream feels present. You can feel wind even when there is none. You can feel your arms stretch, your legs tuck, your chest expand. It's all imagined, and yet it's all felt. Lucid dreamers often report the richness of these sensations. Not just flight, but touch. Brushing your fingers along a wall, diving into cold water, leaning into a warm gust of air that smells like spring. These sensations emerge from multisensory integration. Your brain, even while asleep, merges imagined input, sound, light, motion, texture, into a seamless whole. And because lucidity brings awareness, you notice these sensations more fully. You marvel at how lifelike it all is. The texture of leaves as you pass, the sound of your footsteps or wing beats echoing in a world made entirely by thought. For some, this awareness brings curiosity. What else can I do here? You might try walking through walls or breathing underwater or dancing across rooftops with impossible grace. Not to escape reality, but to experience possibility. Because in this world, fear can fade. The usual rules don't apply, and neither do the usual limits. For those who struggle with fear in waking life, fear of heights, of movement, of falling, lucid flying can be gently healing. To rise, to feel safe, to enjoy the sky is to rewrite the body's memory. And it's not just emotion. Practicing movement in dreams may also help the brain refine skills. Athletes, musicians, even surgeons have explored visualization in sleep. The motor cortex rehearses. The mind maps the steps. And though not fully understood, some studies suggest that imagined motion, especially in lucid dreaming, can influence motor learning, a kind of dreaming rehearsal where neurons practice even as muscles sleep. But none of this requires effort. Lucid movement flows best when not forced, when you allow rather than command, when you let the dream respond to your interest, not your control. Because the dream is not a machine, it is a mirror, and it responds to presence more than power. If you fly with fear, you may fall. If you float with joy, you rise. The brain notices your emotional state. In REM, emotion colors every experience. It shapes the sky, the wind, the distance between stars. It is not just how you move, but how you feel when you move that gives the dream its shape. So let yourself float. Let yourself drift beyond what waking life allows. You're not escaping gravity. You're imagining what it's like to live without it. And in doing so, you glimpse a truth, that the body is only one way to move. That flight is not just about wings, but about mind, breath, trust. And now, gently, your awareness may begin to wonder, what guides this movement? Where does it come from, this sensation of the body, this presence in space, when the body lies still in bed? To understand that, we'll drift next into memory, into the quiet chamber where your life is stored and sorted, and where dreams begin to build their world from fragments you already hold. You're walking down a street you've never seen, but something is familiar. The curve of the hill, the sound of the birds, the smell of summer rain. Then you realize, this is your hometown, or maybe a version of it. The houses are not where they should be, but your heart remembers them anyway. This is the soft touch of memory in dreaming, not loud, not exact, but deeply woven. In lucid dreams, memory isn't just background. It is the material the dream is made from. Your mind builds the world of sleep from what it knows, what it remembers, and sometimes from what it nearly forgot. At the center of this quiet process is a part of your brain called the hippocampus. It lies deep within the temporal lobe, shaped like a curled seahorse. Even its name comes from the sea, hippos for horse, campos for monster. But it is no monster. It is your brain's gentle archivist, gathering experience, emotion, and detail, and weaving them into memory. During waking hours, the hippocampus helps you form new memories. The sound of a voice, the path you took to the cafe, the name of a flower in bloom. It tags these with context, time, place, feeling. It helps you know not just what happened, but when and how it mattered. But at night, especially during REM sleep, the hippocampus becomes something else. It becomes a storyteller. In this phase, memories are replayed and reorganized. They are softened and stretched, mixed with other fragments and filtered through emotion. It's as if your mind is dreaming with your memories, not just about them. You may find yourself in your childhood home, but the walls are blue instead of green. You may see someone you loved long ago, but they speak in the voice of a stranger. Details shift, blur, combine. This is not inaccuracy. This is dreaming's alchemy. The hippocampus speaks with the cortex, especially the neocortex, the seat of reason, language, long-term memory. Together, they decide what to keep, what to release, and how to make sense of your inner world. And in a lucid dream, you notice these strange constructions as they unfold. You realize that you're not in a place, you're in a memory of a place, and more often a feeling of a place. Emotion plays a quiet hand in this. Memories with strong emotional tones, joy, grief, longing, fear, are more likely to rise in dreams. The amygdala, another small but powerful part of your brain, adds color to memory. It tags events with emotional intensity. And in sleep, those tags pull certain memories closer to the surface. That's why you may dream of a school you left long ago, or a moment that seemed small but felt huge. These memories are stored not just in images, but in sensation, in muscle, in heartbeat, in breath. Lucid dreaming allows you to walk through these emotional landscapes with your awareness intact. You might recognize the emotion as it comes. Ah, this is nostalgia. This is fear. I thought I forgot. And because you're lucid, you don't have to run. You can pause. You can sit in the middle of the memory and breathe. This is one of the quiet gifts of lucidity, the ability to re-enter old moments with new awareness, not to change them, but to witness them differently. Sometimes this witnessing feels healing, a conversation left unfinished, a goodbye never spoken. In dreams, you may speak the words your waking self couldn't find, and the brain responds. Studies show that lucid dreaming can help with emotional regulation, possibly because the mind is reprocessing memory while the dreamer consciously reflects. You're not just remembering, you're experiencing memory with the distance and softness that sleep provides. It's like watching the tide rise gently over old footprints, not erasing them but smoothing their edges. And what about new memories? The ones being formed while you sleep. Lucid dreaming often brings a special kind of memory. Meta-awareness, remembering that you are dreaming. This is a memory that forms inside the dream, and it requires just enough prefrontal activation to tag the moment as meaningful. That's why dream journals help. When you write down dreams upon waking, you reinforce the neural pathway between dreaming experience and waking recall. Over time, this can deepen the bridge between memory and dreaming. You begin to recognize recurring symbols, recurring people, recurring moods. They become landmarks, reminders that you've been here before. And in lucidity, you can ask, why does this keep returning? What does this room want me to see? Dream recall itself becomes a form of self-discovery. You're learning the language of your own inner world, a language written in memory, feeling, and imagination. And perhaps you begin to understand that dreaming is not forgetting. It is remembering in a different key, a softer key, one tuned to rhythm, color, and depth. And so, as you float through dream places shaped by memory, you may begin to wonder, who are the people I meet in these dreams? Are they only memories too, or something more? That gentle question waits for us next, in the company of dream characters. The guides, the strangers, the voices that seem to know you better than you know yourself. Someone is speaking your name. You turn and there they are, familiar perhaps, but not quite right. Their face is nearly known. Their voice touches something deep, and yet you cannot place them. Are they a friend, a memory, or something your mind has imagined? In dreams, we meet many such figures. Some we recognize immediately. Old friends, family, loved ones lost to time. Others are strangers yet filled with meaning. They laugh at our jokes, challenge us with riddles, follow us through winding corridors. Some offer help, others mystery. In lucid dreams, these characters become more than a background. You can speak with them, ask them who they are, and sometimes they answer. But who are they really? The answer lives in the quiet architecture of your social mind. Even when you sleep, your brain holds the memory of faces, gestures, voices. The fusiform face area, a region tucked behind your ear, remains active, piecing together fragments of people you've seen. Not just close companions, but strangers on the street, faces glimpsed in magazines, a look shared in passing. Dream characters are not exact replicas. They are mosaics assembled from memory, emotion, expectation, and invention. They speak your language because you built them. They know things because you gave them shape. Neurologically, these figures emerge from a blend of brain activity. The temporal lobes, especially the medial temporal lobe, play a key role in social memory. The amygdala brings emotion to the encounter, and the prefrontal cortex, when lucid, watches it all unfold. In non-lucid dreams, you may accept these people without question. A teacher who is also your sister, a child with your mother's eyes, your best friend but with a voice made of wind. But in lucid dreams you notice. You ask, "Who are you?" And sometimes the dream replies. Some figures respond clearly, "I am your fear." They may say, "I'm your younger self." Others may simply smile and fade. The experience can be eerie. How a part of your mind creates a presence so full, so alive. It raises a quiet question. Are these characters only memory and imagination, or are they something more, reflections of hidden parts of you? Carl Jung, the Swiss psychologist, once described dream figures as aspects of the unconscious. He believed they were archetypes, universal patterns that carry wisdom from the deeper self. Whether you believe in archetypes or not, there is something undeniably reflective about dream characters. They often say what you would not. They act with freedom, intensity, curiosity. They show you your thoughts in disguise. And this is especially true in lucid dreams where you bring awareness into the conversation. You might ask, "Why am I here?" And the figure may answer with a gesture, a word, a transformation, or you might challenge them. "What happens if I leave? What do you represent?" Sometimes they vanish. Sometimes they become something else. Sometimes they sit beside you silently waiting. This is one of the most profound experiences lucidity can offer, to meet yourself through someone else. Because even the dream villains, the unsettling strangers, are pieces of you. Your brain creates their voice, their posture, their gaze. Their fears are your fears. Their questions are ones you've not yet asked aloud. In this way, the dream becomes a hall of mirrors, not to confuse but to reveal. And the clearer your lucidity, the more you can explore these mirrors without fear. You can walk up to the angry figure, the one chasing you down the endless stairs, and ask gently, "What do you need?" And sometimes they soften, sometimes they cry, sometimes they become light. This is where healing can begin, where nightmares turn into dialogue, where the shadow becomes teacher. From a neuroscience perspective, this dialogue reflects complex integration of the emotional memory, visual imagination, and internal narrative. Your brain isn't just showing you a character, it's helping you feel into a part of yourself. And in doing so, it creates the illusion, a powerful, meaningful illusion of another consciousness inside your dream. But perhaps it is not illusion. Perhaps it's another version of you, the dream self built from memory, emotion, and imagination, with just enough separation to feel like another. And so lucid dreaming becomes not just a way to see, but a way to relate, to speak with the self in all its forms. Each character holds a thread. Pull on it and you may find a memory, a question, a longing. Or sometimes you find nothing at all and just presence, just a figure who stands beside you as the dream unfolds. Not everything needs to be understood. Some characters are like clouds. They appear a shift in par, and that is enough. But when you do engage, you begin to learn a language without grammar, a relationship without boundary. You begin to realize there is no them here, only me reflected in many ways. And with that realization, another question stirs beneath the surface. If I can meet parts of myself in these forms, can I also shape them? Can I learn to guide the dream, to gently direct its path, its tone, its story? We'll go there next, into the soft dance between intention and surrender, where dream control begins. You are standing in a dream, aware that it is a dream, and with that awareness comes an idea. Can I change this? Perhaps you try. You raise your arms and lift into the sky. You ask the dream to shift its colors, to open a door, to carry you to a place you've always imagined. And sometimes, like breath turning into song, the dream responds. But not always. Sometimes it resists or warps or fades altogether, and you wake like a swimmer who surfaced too soon. This is the delicate art of dream control. Not a rigid domination, but a gentle partnership. A dialogue between intention and surrender, who said dreaming allows for agency, a chance to act with awareness. But the dream is not a machine. It is a river, and rivers have their own rhythm. In waking life, control is effort. You think, decide, push. But in dreams, effort can backfire. Push too hard and the illusion crumbles. Try to grip the dream and it may slip through your hands. Why? Because lucidity doesn't fully awaken the brain. The prefrontal cortex, the region of logic and decision is only partially active. Just enough to observe, to suggest, but not enough to command. This partial activation is a gift. It keeps you tethered to the dream, allows you to float without sinking too deep into waking thought. Dream control, then, is more like shaping clay and water. You mold with intention, but the material moves with you. You may decide to fly, but how you rise, where you go, what you see as you ascend, these are co-authored by the dream. It helps to begin small, change a color, turn night into dusk, reach for an object and feel it in your hand. Each of these acts builds confidence while deepening the dream, and it helps to stay calm. Excitement can be a wave too strong. It can lift you out of sleep even as you try to ride it. Lucid dreamers often learn to ground themselves, to touch the ground, to look at their hands, to spin gently in place if the world begins to blur. These small acts create anchors, reminders to the brain that it is safe, still dreaming, still held. And from that place of steadiness you can explore. Some use intention like a compass. I want to see the ocean. I want to speak with my younger self. I want to step into a painting. And the dream, mysterious, responsive, alive, shifts accordingly. Not always as expected, but always with meaning. You might walk through a door and find a forest. You might ask for an answer and receive a poem. This unpredictability is part of the dream's language. It listens, but it also speaks. The neuroscience of this interaction is still unfolding. Researchers believe that in lucid dreaming the sense of agency is mediated by coordination between the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex planning the parietal lobe's spatial awareness and the sensory region's vision, touch, sound. The brain simulates action, and the dream world responds in kind. But the simulation isn't bound by physics. The rules are emotional, symbolic, fluid. That's why controlling a lucid dream is not like controlling a game. There are no buttons, no scripts, only intention held lightly. And sometimes the deepest experiences come not from control, but from surrender, letting the dream unfold, watching without directing, trusting what arises. You may find yourself in a library made of starlight, or following a creature you've never seen but somehow understand. You may listen to music made of your own heartbeat. These moments are born from letting go, from releasing the need to manage and choosing instead to be with the dream. Lucid dreaming doesn't have to be a stage for performance. It can be a space for presence, a place to walk without agenda, to feel, to witness. And even when you do shape it, the dream shapes you in return. It mirrors your thoughts, your emotions, your subtle intentions. You may not notice it right away, but every choice you make leaves a trace. The landscape shifts with your mood. The air grows warmer with your calm. Characters soften as you soften. This is not control in the way waking life defines it. It is co-creation, a dance. You lead, then follow. You speak, then listen. And in this rhythm you discover something gentle and profound. That freedom in dreaming comes not from command but from connection. You do not need to master the dream. You only need to meet it. And now, as your awareness rests in this space between choice and surrender, a question rises with the quietness of breath. When the dream ends, what will you remember? How do you carry it back across the fragile bridge to morn? That question drifts beside you as we move into the next chapter. A journey into the dream recall and the art of remembering what sleep offers before it slips away. You wake with a feeling, a whisper of something vast. A place you visited, someone you spoke with, a flight across silver clouds, but already it's fading. The story dissolves faster than breath on glass. You reach for it and it slips away. This is the tender challenge of dreaming. How to remember what felt so real. Even lucid dreams, vivid, bright, full of knowing, can vanish within seconds of waking. Why does this happen? And how can you change it? The answer lies not just in the dream itself, but in the bridge between sleep and waking. A narrow crossing where memory must be gently carried before the day rushes in to wash it away. Let's begin with the science. During sleep, particularly in REM, your brain is busy, alive with imagery, emotion, and movement. But the part of your brain responsible for storing memories, especially long-term episodic memory, is less active. The hippocampus, which catalogs your daily life, works differently during dreaming. It's as if the brain is speaking a language that it doesn't always write down. And so when you wake, the memory may not yet be anchored. It floats, available for a moment, then lost in the wind. But there's good news. Memory can be trained, and dream recall, like any skill, grows stronger with practice. The first step is stillness. When you wake, whether naturally or with an alarm, try not to move right away. Stay in the position you found yourself in. Let the dream rise again like mist gathering in reverse. Movement sends signals to the brain. Time to act, time to think, time to start the day. But dreams need quiet to return. A still body invites memory back in. Then ask gently, what was I feeling just before I woke? Where was I? Who was with me? Sometimes it's not a full story that comes, just a color, a single word, and the sound of wind over glass. These fragments are enough. Write them down. Keep a journal beside your bed, waiting patiently in the dark. Use a pencil, keep the light soft. Let your words be slow and unpolished. They don't need to make sense. Not yet. The act of writing is more than recording. It's an invitation. Each remembered detail opens a door to another. A shirt becomes a hallway becomes a conversation, and suddenly a whole dream returns like a wave. This is how memory deepens, not all at once but through gentle attention, and over time the brain learns. It begins to store dream fragments with greater clarity. You wake with more to remember, more colors, more characters, more of the strange logic that shaped your sleeping mind. Dream journaling also helps you see patterns. You might notice recurring places. A certain house or a school from long ago, a garden that never quite stays the same. You might notice dream signs, clocks that melt, doors that open without rooms, a feeling of weightlessness before lucidity. These patterns become markers. They guide your awareness deeper next time. They tell you, you've been here before. Some lucid dreamers find that simply keeping a dream journal makes their dreams more vivid. Not because the dreams change, but because attention changes the dreamer. There are other techniques to support recall. Before sleep, set an intention. Something simple. I will remember my dream, or I will wake with clarity. This suggestion primes your mind. It sends a message inward, and the dreaming brain listens. Some people find that waking briefly in the night, especially after a REM cycle, allows them to catch dreams mid-flight. These moments are delicate, right? Quickly but gently. You can return to sleep soon after carrying that memory with you. And over days, weeks, months, a record begins to form, not just of dreams, but of you, your hopes, your questions, your changes. Dreams reflect the tides beneath the surface, and recalling them gives you a map to those unseen waters. You might read back through your journal one day and see how your dreams shifted with your emotions, how joy made the sky brighter, how grief brought waves, how the unknown shaped forests made of stone. And in lucid dreams, this reflection goes even deeper. You begin to recognize your dream self, how they move, how they respond, how they listen. You may notice how awareness changes the dream's rhythm, how your choices shape the story, and how the story shapes you in return. Recalling a lucid dream is like remembering a second life. Not a fantasy, but a mirror. And in this mirror, you see not just who you were, but who you're becoming. It is tempting to chase dream control, but sometimes remembering is the truest power. To hold a piece of the night in your waking hands, to read your own subconscious in symbols and stars. And always dream recall is an act of love. A love for the quiet parts of your mind, for the stories that only come in darkness, and for the inner self who waits patiently to be heard. Now, perhaps you're remembering a dream already, or perhaps you're still waiting. Either way, you are listening. And next, we'll explore how that listening can grow stronger through practice, through ritual, through tools that help you notice the difference between consciousness and dreaming. In the next chapter, we'll step into the world of reality checks and dream signs. The subtle signals that lead you back to lucidity night after night. You're walking down a hallway. Everything seems normal until it doesn't. The light switch doesn't work. Your hands look strange. You glance at a clock and it melts into symbols, and suddenly the thought comes. This must be a dream. These moments don't arrive by accident. They are born from practice, from intention, from the small rituals planted in waking life that blossom in sleep. They are called reality checks, simple mindful acts that question the nature of your experience. Tiny sparks of doubt offered in daylight so that they may shine brightly in the dark. At their heart, reality checks are invitations to awareness. Each time you stop during your day and ask, "Am I dreaming?" you plant a seed not just of curiosity, but of habit. And habit, as the brain knows well, is how we learn. The most common reality checks are beautifully simple. Hold out your hand, count your fingers slowly. In dreams, they may blur, change, multiply. The mind often struggles to replicate fine motor detail in sleep. Or try pushing a finger through your opposite palm. In waking life, it stops. In dreams, it may pass through as if your hand were made of mist. Look at text twice. In waking life, it stays the same. In dreams, it often shifts. Letters rearranged, words nonsensical. These checks become anchors not because they force lucidity, but because they train the mind to question gently. And gentle questioning is the door to awareness. But here's the secret. The check only works if you truly believe it might reveal something. If you perform it like a ritual without presence, the dream won't listen. The practice lies in pausing, in giving yourself permission to wonder. Could this be a dream? What tells me it isn't? What would I do if it were? Over time, these questions slip into dreams. The hand you hold out in daylight appears again in sleep, and you count your fingers in a world made of thought. And when they ripple, stretch, or vanish, you know I'm dreaming. This moment often opens the gateway to lucidity. It brings the dream into focus. It steadies the light. But reality checks are only half the path. The other half lies in noticing dream signs. The unique recurring themes and symbols that appear in your dreams. These signs are deeply personal. A childhood home, a particular animal, a sensation of floating or being chased or finding endless staircases. These moments often repeat because they live in the emotional core of memory. They are unresolved, meaningful, symbolic. The brain returns to them because they echo. By keeping a dream journal and reflecting with gentle curiosity, you begin to notice these patterns. They become familiar landmarks on the dream map. And once you recognize them, they become prompts. The next time you see that hallway, that bird, that crowd of silent people, you might pause. You might remember, this happens in dreams. You might ask, am I dreaming now? And again, the light of awareness flickers on. Lucid dreamers often combine dream signs and reality checks into a quiet daily rhythm. Each time you encounter something unusual in waking life, you check reality. Each time you remember a dream, you reflect on its signs. The brain, ever faithful in its plasticity, adapts. Neural pathways form. The practice becomes reflex, and sleep begins to mirror your intention. This is not force, it is presence, a soft sharpening of attention that carries through the veil of consciousness. And sometimes a reality check happens spontaneously in a dream without planning, without script. You find yourself flying and suddenly realize people don't fly like this. And just like that, lucidity arrives. This is the power of cultivating mindfulness, not only for dreaming but for waking. The more you notice your surroundings, the more clearly you see your inner world. In this way, conscious dreaming becomes a life practice, an art of attention, of slowing down, of asking with kindness, what is real? And in that asking, the boundaries between states begin to soften. Wake and dream no longer feel so far apart. They become chapters in the same story, each reality a check. Each noticed dream sign is a page you learn to read. And soon you may find yourself dreaming with eyes wide open, able to choose, to speak, to explore. But as your ability grows, another question may rise beneath the surface. Can inner stillness, the kind you cultivate in meditation, deepen the light of lucid dreaming even further? That question waits just ahead as we turn next to the quiet power of mindfulness and how the breath you follow in the day can guide you gently through the night. Close your eyes. Feel the air move through your nose and then out. Notice how your chest rises, then settles. You're here, you're breathing, and nothing else is needed. This moment, soft, simple, and complete, is where meditation begins. And quietly, it is where conscious dreaming begins too. Because before you can become aware in sleep, you must learn to become aware while awake. Meditation is not about saints. It's about attention, about noticing the mind as it moves and choosing to stay with it rather than be swept away. The practice is gentle. You sit, you breathe, you watch. A thought arrives, what should I eat later? You notice it. You let it go and return to breathe, to stillness. This training, this rhythm of noticing, is the same rhythm lucidity requires. When you meditate regularly, you begin to see your thoughts as weather. They come and go. They don't define you. And this ability to observe without becoming transfers into dreams. In non-lucid dreams, you become the story. In lucid dreams, you notice it instead. Meditation makes that noticing easier. It strengthens the part of your mind that watches without needing to act. This is supported by the neuroscience. Studies show that regular mindfulness practice increases activity in the prefrontal cortex, the very part of the brain that sparks lucidity. It also strengthens the anterior cingulate cortex, which helps regulate attention and emotion. More than that, long-term meditators often show increased gamma wave activity during sleep. Those fast, subtle waves associated with insight, awareness, and integration. In one notable study, experienced meditators were more likely to become lucid without using any dream induction technique. Their awareness carried over naturally because it had been cultivated in daylight. Mindfulness also softens the inner critic, that voice in waking life that demands, pushes doubts. In dreams, that softness helps because lucid dreaming doesn't bloom in control. It blooms in quiet trust. Meditation teaches you how to sit with not knowing, how to let the moment be as it is without rushing to shape it. In dreams, this skill keeps you grounded. You may notice the sky turning violet, the world bending into impossible geometry. And instead of trying to change it, you observe, you breathe, you remain. That presence, open, curious, aware, is the heart of lucidity. And meditation brings that heart closer to the surface. There are specific forms of meditation that especially support conscious dreaming. One is mindfulness of breath. Simply following the inhale and exhale, returning gently each time the mind wanders. Another is open monitoring, where instead of focusing on one point, you notice everything, sounds, thoughts, emotions, sensations as they come and go. This teaches the brain to hold awareness without clinging. You can also practice visualization, imagining a scene in vivid detail. A forest at dusk, a room with golden light, a lake that ripples without wind. This strengthens the imagery network in your brain, the very system that builds your dreams. And finally, there is dream yoga, an ancient Tibetan practice that merges meditative awareness with lucid sleep. Its goal is not just to become lucid, but to use the dream as a space for insight, freedom, and self-discovery. In dream yoga, the dream becomes a mirror not just of the mind but of awareness itself. You can explore these practices slowly. Begin with breath 10 minutes each evening, just sitting, watching, returning. You may notice that your sleep becomes softer, that your dreams grow clearer. You may find after some time that your awareness enters sleep without interruption, carried like a flame through the changing winds of consciousness. This is sometimes called wake-initiated conscious dreaming. Wild. It is rare, delicate, and luminous. You lie down with awareness intact, watching the body fall away, watching images begin to rise until the dream forms fully around you, and you are already inside it. This path requires patience, stillness, and a willingness to watch without grasping. But even without wild, meditation enriches your dreaming life. You become more likely to remember, more likely to recognize patterns, more likely to remain lucid once awareness arrives. It's as if the mind trained in calmness knows how to remain steady in the shifting world of sleep. And perhaps most importantly, meditation brings kindness to the process. You stop chasing lucidity as an achievement. You start receiving it as a gift, a moment of light, a moment of clarity, a moment of being deeply, gently awake, even in dreams. And so if you wish to dream more clearly, start by breathing more clearly. Be present in your waking life. Notice the wind, the sky, the feel of your hands, and this attention will find its way into sleep. It will light the way. Now you may wonder, beyond presence and awareness, what else stirs the lucid dream? Are there messengers within the body, subtle chemicals and signals that prepare the mind for this clarity? In our next chapter, we'll drift into the quiet currents of neurochemistry to meet the molecules that color the dream and sometimes open the door to lucidity. You are asleep. Your breath is slow, your body still. And yet inside your brain, a quiet orchestra plays. Its music is made not of sound, but of signals. Molecules drifting between neurons, tiny messengers shaping thought, emotion, and awareness. This is the chemistry of dreaming. Delicate, powerful, invisible. And when lucidity stirs, when you know even while dreaming that you are dreaming, these chemical messengers are part of the reason why. To understand this, we begin with acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter that plays a starring role in REM sleep. Acetylcholine helps your brain stay active while your body rests. It enhances attention, learning, and in dreams, vivid imagery. During REM levels of acetylcholine rise, especially in the forebrain and visual cortex. It's like a gentle spark bringing clarity to the color's motion to the dreamscape. Lucid dreamers often show higher levels of acetylcholine activity, and some dream induction techniques, including certain supplements, work by increasing this effect. But acetylcholine doesn't work alone. Another important player is dopamine, often known as the brain's motivation molecule. It shapes desire, curiosity, pleasure. In waking life, it helps you focus on goals. In sleep, it adds intensity to dreams, makes them more emotionally engaging music, and more likely to be remembered. There is some evidence that increased dopamine activity may support conscious dreaming. It could be that awareness in dreams requires not just clarity, but interest, a subtle push toward noticing. Then there is melatonin, the hormone of darkness produced by the pineal gland. Melatonin regulates your circadian rhythm, the body's internal clock. As night falls, melatonin rises, guiding your body into PNN sleep. But during REM, its influence softens. Too much melatonin can suppress dreaming altogether, while a gentle tapering may help dreams rise more freely. Some dreamers adjust their light exposure, seeking natural morning sunlight or reducing screens at night to support melatonin's natural rhythm. A steady rhythm of light and dark creates more stable sleep and thus more fertile ground for lucidity. Another quiet influence is serotonin, a neurotransmitter tied to mood, memory, and regulation. Serotonin levels fluctuate across sleep stages. They drop during REM, and this drop may help silence the rigid thinking of the waking mind. With less serotonin, the brain becomes more fluid, more imaginative. However, conscious dreaming often requires a soft return of structure, a reawakening of self-awareness. And that balance between looseness and clarity may be supported by how serotonin shifts throughout the night. You might be wondering, can these chemicals be influenced? Yes, but with care. Some people use supplements like galantamine, a natural compound that increases acetylcholine. When taken in the middle of the night after several hours of sleep, it can increase the likelihood of lucidity. Others experiment with vitamin B6 choline or mugwort, herbs and compounds said to enhance dream vividness. But these are not magic keys. They are gentle nudges, and without mindful practice, journaling, meditation, reality checks, they're unlikely to bring lucidity on their own. Think of them as the wind. Helpful, but you still need a sail. Your brain also responds to rhythm. The consistency of sleep and wake cycles. Lucid dreaming is more likely when you keep regular hours, go to bed with intention, and wake during REM-rich windows. Many lucid dreamers use a technique called wake back to bed, WBTB. They sleep for 5 or 6 hours, then wake briefly, perhaps writing in a journal or reading about dreams before returning to bed. This short waking period increases acetylcholine and alertness, making lucidity more likely in the next REM cycle. Timing matters too. Most REM sleep occurs in the later part of the night. That's when your dreams become longer, more vivid, more emotionally complex. By waking gently in these hours without alarms or without stress, you increase your chances of catching the dream as it forms. And yet lucidity is not just a formula, not just a balance of chemicals. It is awareness carried by the currents of sleep. These molecules are messengers. They create the stage. But the light, the noticing, the knowing comes from you, your habits, your curiosity, your willingness to observe the mind without clinging. Still, it is comforting to know that your biology is on your side, that inside you is a network of signals quietly shaping the texture of your dreams. And when the chemistry is right, when acetylcholine hums, dopamine glows, and your awareness stirs, the dream opens and you awaken within it. But lucidity isn't always a lantern in the sky. Sometimes it's a shield, a way to meet fear with clarity. 'Cause not all dreams are gentle. Some chase, some press. Some ask you to look at what you'd rather avoid. What happens when lucidity finds you inside a nightmare? What can you do when fear follows you through your dream? That's where we're going next. Into the dark places of sleep and how light, even the smallest spark, can change everything. The hallway stretches too long. The door won't open. Someone or something is chasing you, and your feet feel heavy like you're running through syrup, your voice caught behind your tongue. You know this place. It's not the hallway from your waking life. It's the one built from your nervous system. A nightmare. But then something shifts. You look at your hands. They blur, ripple, stray. A thought rises like a candle flame. I am dreaming. And in that moment, the fear still there softens. It loses its edge because now you know you are safe. Lucidity, even a sliver of it, changes the landscape of nightmares. In waking life, fear is survival. It narrows your vision, tightens your muscles, prepares you to act. But in dreams, fear becomes a story, one built from memory, symbol, and emotion. Lucid dreaming gives you the power to pause the story, to rewrite it, or simply stand within it without running away. Why do nightmares come? They often arise from emotional residue, stress, trauma, anxiety, or unresolved grief. The brain in its dreaming state does not speak in facts. It speaks in metaphor. A crashing wave becomes a deadline. A faceless figure becomes guilt. A burning house becomes the fear of loss. And when the dreaming mind creates these images, the body reacts. Heart racing, breath shallow, adrenaline stirring. Your brain doesn't always know the difference between real and imagined danger, especially in non-lucid dreams. But when lucidity arrives, you step out of the current. You can look at the fire, the figure, the fall, and say, "This is mine. This is a dream." And often the nightmare begins to shift. Studies have shown that conscious dreaming can be a powerful tool for people who experience recurring nightmares, especially those rooted in trauma. Through lucid awareness, dreamers learn to face the dream rather than flee, to talk to the monster, to walk into the dark room, to ask, "What are you here to teach me?" And the brain listens. Neuroiming suggests that during lucid nightmares, activity in the amygdala, the brain's fear center, can be modulated by prefrontal awareness. That is, knowing it's a dream can quiet the emotional storm. Some people go further. They use conscious dreaming to practice courage. They set intentions before sleep. Tonight, if fear comes, I will face it. If the wave returns, I will swim. And over time, the brain rewires. Fear loses its grip, confidence grows. Because in lucid dreams, you can make choices that feel real. And those choices leave an imprint. If you stand tall in a dream, if you speak kindly to your shadow, if you walk calmly into the storm, you carry that memory with you into waking life. It becomes part of your emotional vocabulary. Lucid dreamers often describe a deep sense of empowerment after transforming a nightmare. Not because they won, but because they didn't run, they stayed. That's where the change begins. But lucidity doesn't always mean action. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is breathe. To witness the nightmare with the calm of knowing, I am not in danger. This is my mind unfolding. This shift in perspective alone can dissolve the nightmare's intensity. You might watch the storm pass. You might sit with the ghost. You might listen. Because sometimes nightmares don't want to be fought. They want to be felt. They want to be understood. And lucidity gives you the space to do that without being overwhelmed. It's important to be gentle here. Not every nightmare should be forced into confrontation. Lucidity is not a command. It's an invitation. You can always choose to wake up, to leave, to return another night, but know that the power lies within you. The dream is made of your thoughts, your feelings, your memories. Nothing in it can harm you. Not really. That understanding is the light you carry. Some dreamers find healing through dialogue. They speak to the frightening figure. They ask, "Why are you chasing me? What do you need?" And sometimes the figure shifts. A monster becomes a wounded child. A pursuer becomes a guide. A shadow becomes a mirror. You begin to see the nightmare not as a threat, but as a messenger. Lucid dreaming allows you to receive that message without fear. There are practices to support this. Set an intention before sleep. If I enter a nightmare, I will remember I am dreaming. Visualize a source of strength, a light in your chest, a trusted guide, a safe place you can summon. Use gentle affirmations. I am safe. I am aware. I am the dreamer. These habits build inner stability. They remind your brain that you are not a victim of your dreams. You are a participant. And perhaps more than that, you're a healer. Each nightmare you meet with lucidity becomes an opportunity not to conquer but to understand. You begin to trust your inner world. You begin to trust yourself. And as nightmares lose their grip, space opens for something new, for healing, for insight, for transformation. Next, we'll drift deeper into this possibility, into the ways conscious dreaming may help you not only face fear but recover from it. Can the mind repair itself in sleep? Can dreams become medicine? We'll find out as we explore how the dreaming brain may offer not just reflection but restoration. You are lying still, deep in sleep. Your body is calm, but your mind is awake. Not in the ordinary way, but with a quiet knowing. You are dreaming and you know you're dreaming. And in this space, something begins to soften. A wound perhaps long carried, an ache without words, the shape of something unfinished. Lucid dreaming is not just a playground of the mind. It is also a sanctuary, a space where healing can unfold gently, naturally, sometimes even without effort. But how? The answer lies in the brain's extraordinary ability to rewire itself, a gift known as neuroplasticity. Your brain is not a fixed structure. It is a living system constantly shaped by experience, thought, and attention. Even in sleep, especially in REM, that shaping continues. In REM sleep, the brain reactivates emotional memories. It replays experiences not as they happened, but as they felt. And in doing so, it begins to smooth the jagged edges of pain. It creates space around memory, space to reflect, release, or reframe. Lucid dreaming brings awareness into this process. It gives you a seat beside the unfolding story. And that presence, that knowing can change everything. Some dreamers use lucidity to revisit difficult moments, not to relive trauma, but to view it differently, to speak to a lost loved one, to offer compassion to a younger self, to stand in a place that once caused fear and simply breathe. In the dream, the body feels real, the emotions even more so, and so the healing that begins there can ripple outward into waking life. Therapists and researchers have begun to explore this. Lucid dreaming is now being studied as a tool for treating anxiety, PTSD, even chronic pain. And while the science is still young, the stories are compelling. People who feel powerless in waking life find agency in their dreams. They practice speaking, moving, choosing without fear of judgment or consequence. And these moments build confidence like rehearsals for waking challenges. Imagine this. You're afraid of speaking in public. In waking life, the thought makes your chest tighten. But in a lucid dream, you stand before a crowd, a creation of your own mind, and you speak. You feel the nerves, yes, but you also feel the strength. When you wake, something has shifted. A trace of that courage remains. Or perhaps your pain is physical, a limb that aches, a breath that's never quite full. In the dream, your body is light. You run, swim, fly, you feel whole. And for a moment and sometimes longer, the nervous system remembers what freedom feels like. This is not illusion. It is practice. Imagery has long been used in physical rehabilitation. The brain, when imagining motion, activates many of the same regions as real movement. Dreams deepen that imagery, making it immersive, emotional, embodied. And because lucid dreams occur without the noise of waking life, they offer a unique focus, a space where intention can unfold without distraction. Some people use this space for grief, not to replace the loss, but to make peace with it. They speak with the dead, not because the dead speak back, but because the mind needs to say what was left unsaid. And in the dream, it feels real enough to bring comfort, a conversation, a goodbye, a moment of stillness shared under imagined stars. These experiences don't erase sorrow, but they soften it. They make it less sharp, less lonely. And in this way, dreams become a place of integration. Lucid dreamers often describe a sense of completion, not in the story of their lives, but in the emotional texture of those stories. The mind has spoken its truth, and the body, even in rest, has listened. But healing isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's as simple as being in the dream without judgment, to float, to observe, to feel the air, the color, the sound, and know that you are safe. This kind of presence, gentle and sustained, can bring nervous system regulation. It can reduce stress. It can create new pathways of calm. And that calm over time can become your baseline, the place your body returns to, not panic but peace. Of course, conscious dreaming is not a cure-all. It is not a substitute for therapy, for connection, for the many layered ways we heal in waking life. But it is a tool, a space, a mirror. And sometimes that's exactly what we need. The ability to look inward without resistance, to listen to the story the body is telling in symbols and dreams. To offer it gentleness, to say, I see you, I am with you, let's rest. And the dream listens. Even the subconscious, deep, strange, unknowable responds to care. So the next time you become lucid, you might not try to fly. You might simply sit beneath a dream tree and let the wind carry what you're ready to release. Let the sky take what you no longer need. And as the dream fades, you may wake with something new. A softness in your chest. A quiet shift in how you carry your past. Healing, after all, is not only what leaves, it's also what stays. And now, as your breath slows, you may wonder if dreams can heal. Can they also create? Can they help us imagine what hasn't yet been? A song, a solution, a future world. Let's drift there next, into the endless canvas of imagination and the creative mind in lucid sleep. You find yourself in a room you've never seen. The walls shimmer like light underwater. There's a piano with no keys, just shapes waiting to be touched. You press one and it sings. Not a note, something new, something only the dream understands. This is the landscape of the lucid creative mind, unbound by the laws of waking logic, free to explore what does not yet exist. Here, imagination flows not through effort but through allowing. Lucid dreams are not merely echoes of your life. They're bridges to the possible. And when awareness enters this space, you gain something rare, a chance to shape the dream with the dream. In waking life, creativity often feels like reaching, searching through memory, combining pieces, waiting for inspiration to arrive. But in lucid dreams, inspiration surrounds you. You can walk through your own mind as if it were a gallery, touch the colors, climb the melodies, speak with characters who know things you haven't yet learned. Artists have long felt this connection. Salvador Dali napped with a spoon in hand. So he'd wake just as he entered hypnagogia, the state between consciousness and dreaming. He captured the melting clocks of that space, the way objects forget their names and become symbols instead. Thomas Edison did the same, seeking sparks of genius where thought and sleep blur. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein was born in a dream. Paul McCartney heard the melody to Yesterday in his sleep. Creativity and dreams have always held hands. Lucid dreaming simply deepens the grip. In this space, you can experiment without consequence. Want to design a building that floats? You can walk through its halls, feel its gravity shift. Want to write a poem and read it aloud to a room full of imagined listeners? They'll nod or laugh or challenge you. You are not alone, even if the others are you. And if you paint in your waking life, you might step into a dream filled with new palettes. Colors that do not exist in the spectrum of light but emerge instead from emotional tone. A red made of memory, a blue that tastes like forgiveness. The mind untethered becomes a studio, and it's not just the arts. Inventors, scientists, designers, all have used dreams to test and tinker. In lucid sleep, the rules of the physical world dissolve, but the logic of insight remains. The brain's default mode network, active during daydreaming and reflection, continues to hum during REM. So does the visual association cortex, the home of internal imagery. Lucid dreaming combines the freedom of fantasy with the focus of conscious thought. You can set a goal before sleep. Tonight I will explore a new solution. I want to see what comes next in the story I'm writing. And while you cannot force creation, you can arrive ready to receive it. Creativity often begins in constraint, but in dreams you start from the opposite. You begin with limitlessness, and from that vastness, meaning emerges. Some lucid dreamers describe walking through libraries where every book is one they haven't written yet. They open pages and read words they don't remember writing. And yet, the words feel true. Others create worlds, not just images but geographies, systems, languages. They return to the same places night after night, watching them evolve. And when they wake, they carry that architecture with them into sketchbooks, stories, songs. This is not magic. It's the mind's gift given permission to explore. And sometimes the best thing you can do is get out of the way, to let the dream show you something unexpected. Lucid dreaming is not just a tool for creation. It is creation active, fluid, alive. And when you step into it, you join a process already in motion. The key is not to control, but to co-create. You ask, and the dream answers, not always clearly, but always with sincerity. And even when the dream becomes strange or chaotic, you learn something about your own inner landscape. You learn how ideas form, how feelings shape space, how your mind plays when no one is watching. Creativity, after all, is not performance. It's presence. It's curiosity without demand. In lucid dreams, this becomes effortless. You follow what calls. You build, reshape, listen. You find beauty and surprise. And when you wake, if you wake slowly, you may bring a phrase, a design, a memory of something that might work. Write it down. Capture the seed. Because dream ideas are often delicate, brilliant, but easily lost. Keep a notebook by your bed. Sketch the impossible machine. Describe the glowing staircase. The conversation with the imagined mentor, the song that played from the stars. These moments are not always polished, but they are true. And with time, they feed your waking creativity like water to roots. You begin to trust your dreaming mind not as an escape, but as a partner. And you begin to see that rest is not absence. It is depth. It is where the raw material of your inner world gathers itself. So tonight, when the dream opens, you might ask, what would I create if I didn't need it to be perfect? What beauty lives here waiting to be noticed? Let those questions carry you. And tomorrow, see what they've become. In the next chapter, we'll float deeper into time itself, how it bends in dreams, stretches, loops, how a single moment might hold an hour, and how time in dreams does not always belong to clocks. You're sitting beside a window watching the sun set in slow motion. It melts across the sky like honey, and in the space between one breath and the next, you've lived an entire day. Or was it a year? In the dreaming mind, time bends. It stretches and curls in ways waking clocks cannot explain. Here inside the lucid dream, time is not measured in seconds, but in sensations, in movement, in mood, in how deeply you're paying attention. And this strange and beautiful distortion is one of the dream's most mysterious gifts. In waking life, your experience of time is tightly tied to rhythm. Heartbeat, breathing, sunrises, tasks. Time ticks forward even when you want it to pause. But in dreams, your brain becomes the clock. And it doesn't always tick. Sometimes it hums, sometimes it waits. Lucid dreamers often report this phenomenon. They wake from a dream that seemed to span hours, even days, only to find they've been asleep for a handful of minutes. Or they experience an entire dream sequence, then return to it later in the same night, as if pressing pause and resume on a hidden reel of film. Science has studied this too. In sleep labs, researchers have worked with skilled lucid dreamers to test time perception. Dreamers are instructed to perform specific actions like counting or walking and signal their start and stop with agreed-upon eye movements. And what they find is curious. Some actions in dreams take about as long as in waking life. Others are quicker and still others feel slow, drawn out as if time itself had taken a deep breath. Why does this happen? Part of it lies in how dreams are constructed. They are not built in real time, but in remembered time, like a story that skips forward or repeats. A dream compresses experience into what feels like continuity. Imagine a dream where you travel across a country. You don't recall every mile. You simply know you've been on a journey. Your brain fills in the blanks. This is narrative time, the time of novels, of films, of memory itself. Your mind holds the story together, even if the details are imagined. Lucidity sharpens this. When you're aware inside a dream, you may find yourself more attuned to the passage of dream time. You might notice how a moment stretches, how a gesture slows like a dancer underwater, or you might control it. Some lucid dreamers report learning to speed up or slow down their experience of time. They may stretch a second into a symphony or rush through a scene eager to see what comes next. But even without control, awareness itself alters perception. You might walk through a dream garden and feel you've been there for days, watching trees bloom and shed their leaves, watching the light change. Yet when you wake, only 20 minutes have passed. This experience isn't false. It is emotionally true because time in dreams isn't about numbers. It's about depth. How deeply were you feeling? How present were you? In this way, dreams echo the states of flow. Those waking moments when time disappears, when you're painting, reading, dancing, and hours vanish without notice. Lucid dreams are full of flow. You're immersed, engaged, unburdened by clocks. And so time becomes pliable. It's also why dreams can feel fragmented. A scene dissolves. You shift from one setting to another with no sense of transition. This isn't a flaw. It's a different logic. A logic where causality gives way to meaning. And yet, for all this fluidity, the dream is still structured. The REM cycle, after all, follows a rhythm. Each cycle grows longer as the night continues. By early morning, you may spend 30 to 40 minutes in uninterrupted dreaming. This is often when lucid dreams emerge on the long shore of sleep, when the mind is still loose but full of light. And in that light, time becomes your companion. You may walk alongside your childhood self and feel no gap at all. You may speak to someone you lost and feel as if no time has passed since you said goodbye. These are not tricks. They are ways the brain keeps memory alive, ways it honors the heart's desire to hold what time took away. And in conscious dreaming, you can explore these moments intentionally. You can revisit the past not to change it but to feel it differently. You might ask, what would I say now if I had more time? What did I miss in the rush of then? And the dream will show you. Not necessarily what was, but what still needs to be seen. Some dreamers use this timeless quality for rehearsal. They practice skills. They run through speeches. They imagine futures they have yet to live. Because in dreams you are free from the gravity of clocks, you can live slowly. You can pause, you can listen. And in this slowness you may find something rare, the feeling of enough time, enough to breathe, enough to feel, enough to rest. When you wake, that sensation may linger, a softness in the pace of your thoughts, a space between urgency and action, and it may remind you that even in waking life, time can be felt differently. That presence stretches time, that awareness deepens it, and perhaps conscious dreaming helps you carry that knowing into the day. Next, we'll slip into an even subtler space. Not time, but space itself. How dreams shift gravity, distance, and direction. How your inner world creates landscapes without ground. And how space, like time, becomes your canvas. You are standing at the edge of a forest. The trees glow faintly, leaves humming with color. You step forward, and with that single movement, you realize you've created this place. The moss beneath your feet, the bend of the path, even the breeze, all born of your own mind. In the lucid dream, space is not discovered. It is revealed. Each step you take shapes what comes next. You are the traveler and also the terrain. Dream space is not constrained by walls, physics, or geography. It flows with memory, emotion, and belief. And yet it feels solid, real enough to walk through, vivid enough to leave footprints on your sleeping mind. This paradox, imagined yet felt, is one of the most remarkable features of the dreaming brain. But how does the mind build these worlds? When you dream, your brain's parietal lobe and visual cortex light up. These regions process space, orientation, and the feeling of being in a body. Even though your physical body rests still, your brain simulates motion, constructs depth, maps distance. In lucid dreams, this spatial map becomes more coherent. You not only see the world, you navigate it with choice. You may climb a spiral staircase that seems to rise endlessly into starlight. You may open a door in your childhood home and find an ocean waiting there. These places are not at random. They're shaped by layers. First, memory. Rooms you've seen, streets you've walked, textures your hands once knew. Then emotion. The way a dream room might feel warm or cold not by temperature but by mood. And finally, imagination. Your brain's natural talent for blending and bending what it already knows. Lucid dreamers often return to the same places, sometimes without meaning to. These recurring spaces become inner landscapes, temples, towers, forests, cities, each with its own logic, its own emotional flavor. You may have a dream library where every book holds something you've forgotten, or a garden that blooms only when you feel safe. These spaces are not just scenery. They are reflections. And when you become lucid, you can explore them with gentle intention. You might walk through a dream city and notice how the buildings change based on your thoughts, how doors appear when you ask a question, how a bridge forms when you feel brave. This is dream architecture, some of that magic with you. Space built not from stone but from story. In waking life, we move through space shaped by others. In dreams, the space is yours. You are the architect and the witness. And that's a kind of freedom. You can float if you like. Let gravity go. You can shrink to the size of a grain of sand and explore the fibers of a dream leaf. You can stretch the horizon so wide that the stars feel close enough to touch. But more than novelty, these choices offer insight. Because how you move through space reflects how you feel in that moment. Do you build walls or open fields? Do you fly or hide? Do you return to the same locked room or discover new corridors? Some lucid dreamers use these landscapes as settings for inner work. They create sanctuaries, safe places for reflection, a meadow where they sit and breathe, a quiet room where they meet with imagined mentors, a mountain where they go to release something heavy. Others use movement as metaphor. They climb cliffs to face fear, cross rivers to let go, stand still and watch the world shift around them. A practice in surrender. Even the architecture of the dream can be meaningful. A crumbling house, an endless hallway, a door that will not open. Each of these may hold emotion, belief, memory, and through lucidity you can approach them with softness. You might sit in the center of that hallway and wait. Let it stretch, twist, dissolve, and see what remains. You might knock on the closed door and listen to what answers. In doing so, you learn to listen to your own inner space, not as something to control but to understand. Some researchers suggest that the experience of space in dreams activates parts of the default mode network, the brain's introspective system, the same one used when you imagine, reflect, daydream. Dream space may be less about geography and more about identity. Who are you in this place? Where do you go when you're free to choose? This freedom can feel playful. You can create an entire floating city or walk upside down through a mirrored forest, but it can also feel sacred. A lucid dream can become a pilgrimage through the self, and the space you build can become a home for that journey. It doesn't need to be grand. Sometimes the most meaningful dream places are quiet. A candle-lit room, a bench beside a stream, a doorway you walk through again and again. And when you wake, these places linger. You might remember the feel of the stone underfoot or the way the star curved gently inward. They become part of your inner world, places to return to, places to rest. Lucid dreaming invites you to know these spaces, to move through them with curiosity, to let them shift and respond to the questions you ask and the feelings you carry. So tonight, as you drift towards sleep, you might ask, what space will I find within? What might I build if I let go of what I've known? Because next we'll explore not only the shape of space, but the shape of self. How identity appears in dreams, and what it means to meet yourself in the mirror of lucid sleep. You walk down a corridor that seems to breathe. Soft light spills through stained glass you don't remember creating. At the far end of the hallway, someone is waiting. As you draw closer, you realize it's you, but not exactly. A younger you, or maybe older, eyes wiser, posture looser, a version that seems to remember something you've forgotten. In conscious dreaming, identity is not fixed. You may appear as yourself, but you may also become someone else, an observer, a stranger, even a shifting swirl of thought without a name. And in this fluid space, you are invited to ask softly, who am I? When the mask of waking life falls away in waking life, identity is tethered into names, roles, faces, routines. You wake up knowing your name, your history, your address. But in dreams, those threads can untangle. You might speak with your childhood self. You might become your parent or someone you've never met. You might see yourself across a dream room, watching, listening, waiting. Lucidity brings awareness to this mystery. You're not just in the dream. You're aware of your shape within it. And that awareness opens a powerful door, the chance to meet your many selves. Psychologists sometimes call this self as other. The way our minds project aspects of ourselves onto the characters and landscapes of dreams. The angry stranger, perhaps your own unspoken frustration. The kind guide, maybe your inner calm waiting to be heard. In lucid dreams, you can speak to these figures, ask them questions. Listen, you might say to the woman with your eyes, what do you know that I don't? You might ask the child version of you, what are you still carrying? And sometimes they answer, not always in words and sometimes in image, feeling, or movement. But the message often feels meaningful, as if the dream has dipped a ladle into the well of your deeper mind. Research shows that dream characters often display unexpected intelligence. In lucid dreams, when asked abstract questions, they respond with metaphor, poetry, even logic. Some seem aware of being dream figures, others do not. But all of them are part of you, expressions of memory, emotion, intuition. Meeting yourself in this way can be healing. You may realize that your inner critic looks just like an old teacher, or that your courage wears the face of someone you once admired. These moments don't require analysis. They ask only presence, curiosity, compassion. And when you wake, you may find that your sense of self has softened, expanded, deepened. You are not just the surface you, the one who performs, responds, maintains. You are a constellation of stories, some still unfolding. Lucid dreaming offers space to explore them without judgment. You can shapeshift. You can sit beside yourself in silence. You can hug the self you were 10 years ago and whisper, "You're doing fine." You can become light or mist or fly without form. Because the self is not just skin, it is awareness. And in the lucid dream, awareness is free. Some dreamers report becoming completely formless, a floating point of consciousness, watching the dream unfold. Others split, seeing themselves from above or speaking with versions that feel both familiar and strange. These experiences mirror a state some meditators describe the witness, the quiet part of mind that simply observes. In dreams, you can feel this deeply. You can watch a scene from every angle. You can become both actor and audience. And in doing so, you learn that identity is not a box but a rhythm. It shifts. It plays. And when you meet it with kindness, you find that even the parts you once feared are trying to help you grow. Some lucid dreamers engage in a practice known as self-dialogue, asking the dream to show them what they need to know. They might call out, "Show me my fear," or "Show me my next step." The dream responds not with certainty but with story, and that story may teach you something no waking mirror ever could. Of course, not all meetings are easy. Sometimes you see a self you don't recognize, one who feels distant, distorted, even difficult. And yet, even here there is wisdom because every self within you wants to be heard. Lucidity lets you listen without turning away. It lets you say, "You're part of me. I see you." And in that seeing, healing begins dream by dream. You collect pieces of yourself long scattered and you begin to feel whole again, not perfect but present. Tonight. As you rest, you might invite this meeting not with force but with openness. Ask gently, who am I now in this season of life? What self is waiting to be welcomed? You may walk through a door in your dream and find an answer waiting, or simply a reflection that gazes back with understanding. Either way, you're not alone. The self in all its forms is always becoming. Next, we'll step beyond the self into the shared dreaming mind. The collective symbols, myths, and patterns that appear across culture and time. What do we all dream at when we are free to dream? The dream begins and there it is again. A staircase that vanishes as you climb. A voice you almost recognize. A shape coiled in shadow. You've never been here, and yet it feels familiar. And maybe, just maybe, someone else on the other side of the world had a dream last night that felt just like this. Because in dreams, we speak a language older than words. The language of symbol, of image, of shared emotion. Across time, across culture, humans have dreamed of flying, falling, being chased, showing up late, being seen, or suddenly invisible. We dream of birth and death, of animals that speak, of journeys with no map. These are not random. They are stories told by the subconscious, woven from memory, feeling, and a thread of something deeper. Carl Jung called these symbols archetypes, forms that appear again and again because they live at the root of our shared humanity. The ocean, the unknown, the snake, transformation, the door, choice, the mirror, self-reflection. Not every dream holds an archetype, and not every archetype means the same thing to everyone. But the patterns are there like stones beneath the surface of a slow river. Lucid dreaming gives you a lantern. It lets you see the symbols as they form, notice them, speak to them, even reshape them. You're not decoding your dream like a puzzle. You're having a conversation with it. You might fly, and rather than simply enjoy the air, you ask, "What am I flying away from?" Or, "What part of me finally feels free?" You might meet a wise figure, a teacher, an elder, a stranger glowing with quiet light, and instead of forgetting the face by morning, you remember because you were lucid. You ask their name. You listen to what they said. Dream figures like these often echo roles found in mythology. The guide, the trickster, the lost child, the healer. They may wear different faces, but their meaning is often shared. In ancient Greece, dreams were believed to be messages from the gods. In indigenous cultures across the world, dreams are seen as portals to guidance, ancestors, spirit. And while modern neuroscience explores dreams as brain activity, even science does not deny the feeling of meaning. The symbols we encounter feel significant, not because someone told us they were, but because we feel their weight. In lucid dreams, we get to feel that meaning from the inside, not just as observers but as participants. You might see a locked box in your dream, and instead of passing by, you open it. You find an object you've never seen, but somehow it feels like yours. A photo, a stone, a key, and you wake wondering, what did I just return to? Some symbols may be personal, a hallway that reminds you of your childhood, figure that carries the scent of someone you miss. Others are collective, shared across continents and centuries. Dreams of teeth falling owl, of standing before a crowd, unprepared, of searching for someone in a city of mirrors. Lucid dreaming helps you pause these moments and look closer. Why the mirror? Why this crowd? Why now? And the answer isn't a single definition. It's a feeling, a click, a sudden breath of understanding. Because dreams don't lecture, they reveal. They paint with metaphor what your waking self may be too busy in to notice. And lucidity brings you to the canvas. Some dreamers create a symbol journal recording recurring dream images and noting how they change with time. They might notice that the dream house they keep visiting has slowly opened its windows, or that the once silent dog now walks beside them peacefully. Symbols evolve just as we do. A nightmare figure that once chased you may one day become your companion, not because the fear disappeared, but because you finally listened. Lucid dreaming isn't just about control. It's about meeting your own inner language with patience. You might not understand a symbol immediately. It may take weeks, months, years, or it may never fully translate. But you learn to hold it with respect. To say, I see you, you mean something. I'll walk with you a while and see where you lead. And you are not alone in this walk. Many lucid dreamers describe dream circles, communities where symbols are shared not to be explained away, but to be honored. When someone says, I dreamt of a spiral staircase into the sea, others nod, not because they dreamt the same image, but because they know the feeling of it. That is the magic of shared symbol, not exact match, but deep resonance. Lucid dreams connect you to this current. You become a dreamer among dreamers, a student of your own inner myths. And perhaps most beautifully, you begin to trust your imagination, not as illusion, but as a kind of wisdom. Because dreams are not lies. They're another kind of truth. Tonight, you may notice something familiar, a bridge, a book, a face. You may feel something stir just before lucidity returns. And when it does, you might ask, what do you want me to see? What story are you telling beneath the story? Let those questions float with you as we move toward the next layer. The boundaries between your dream and someone else's. Do we ever dream together? Can minds touch across sleep? Let's explore the quiet wonder of shared dreaming and where science meets mystery. You're in a garden, its colors deeper than any waking sky. A figure walks toward you, someone you know. You smile, they speak, and when you wake, they call or write and say, I had the strangest dream. You were there and you wonder, was I? This is the quiet question at the edge of science. Can two people share a dream? It's not a new idea. Indigenous cultures around the world have long spoken of it, shared symbols, messages passed through sleep, dreamers gathering in vision to solve problems, to pray, to remember. In Western traditions, too, the idea lingers. Twin dreams, couples dreaming the same place, friends waking with matching memories. And though science remains cautious, the stories persist. Lucid dreaming invites a fresh look because here you are aware, you remember. And if by chance you find someone familiar in your lucid dream, someone you know deeply, someone you trust, you might begin to wonder, could they be dreaming this too? Let's begin gently with what we know. Sleep scientists tell us that dreaming is a deeply personal process. The mind draws from its own experiences, shapes its own imagery. And yet, humans are social creatures. Our minds are built for connection. Even in dreams, we think in terms of relationship. So, it's not surprising that we dream of others, friends, family, people we've just met or haven't seen in years. What is surprising is when those dreams seem to match. When two people dream of the same place or the same event or of each other in ways too detailed to ignore. Coincidence, memory bias. Perhaps, but lucid dreamers offer something more structured. They try experiments, setting intentions before sleep. I will meet you at the tree. I will say your name if I find you. They write down their dreams afterward, compare notes, and sometimes the overlaps are uncanny. Dream researchers call these mutual dreams, not yet proven, but not easily dismissed. There's no clear evidence that minds can directly connect in sleep, but there's no evidence against it either. And if you've ever woken with the feeling that someone was close, so close you could hear them breathing, you know the weight of that question. The science may be thin, but the mystery is full. And even if minds don't literally meet in sleep, there is a different kind of shared dreaming that happens every night. We dream of symbols that live in culture, doors, rivers, animals that carry meaning. We dream of archetypes, the wise figure, the lost child, the dark forest. We share these not because we plan to, but because our lives overlap. Our feelings rhyme. When two people share love, grief, longing, memory, they dream in the same colors. And conscious dreaming lets you notice this. You might step into a dream and feel someone's presence not as a figure but as a warmth. You might hear their voice, not words but a feeling. These are not facts, but they are not false. They are how the dreaming mind speaks when words fall away. There's also a kind of dreaming together that happens when people sleep in the same room. Partners, siblings, friends on a long journey. Their sleep cycles begin to align. They interm at similar times. The body synchronizes breath, rhythm, even temperature. And though their dreams are still private, there's a kind of resonance, a sharing of the night. This is entrainment, the way rhythms sync in biology, as if the bodies are quietly listening to each other. And it may be that dreams too are affected by closeness, by the warmth of someone nearby, by the trust that lets the nervous system rest deeper. Lucid dreamers sometimes invite others in, not physically but symbolically. They call on a loved one. They ask a question aloud. They imagine a meeting and then sim and step into it. Whether or not the other person joins, the act becomes meaningful because dreaming with intention is a way of staying connected, of honoring relationship even in sleep. It's also possible to dream together in waking life through storytelling. When you share your dream, you hand someone a key. They imagine the hallway you walked down, the figure you chased, the sky that folded open. They see it, and in seeing they dream it too, if only for a moment. That is another kind of mutual dreaming, one built from words but felt with the same depth. Dreaming is not isolation. It is communication at a deeper level, and lucidity makes you an ambassador between worlds, between minds. You might not meet your friend in the dream tonight. You might not share a forest or a conversation that survives the morning, but you might wake with a sense that someone was near. And perhaps that's enough. Perhaps the mystery isn't there to be solved, but to be felt. Tonight, as you drift into lucid sleep, you might think of someone softly, kindly, and imagine meeting them beneath a dream tree. You might say, "I'll see you in the wind," or, "If we meet, we'll both remember." And then let it go. Let the dream carry what it will, because next we'll travel even deeper into the quiet space between dream and waking. That gentle returning, that soft re-entry, that moment when the dream fades but the wisdom stays. The world returns not all at once but in layers. First the weight of your body, then the faint sounds, a creak in the floorboards, a bird outside the window, your own slow breath. Your eyelids flutter, not quite ready to rise. And in the space between sleeping and waking, you hover, still wrapped in the softness of a dream, but beginning to remember that other world, the one made of clocks and light, where your name has edges and gravity feels heavier. This is the moment of return, the quiet bridge, the space where two realities meet and whisper to each other. Lucid dreaming does not end when you wake. It folds into you, becomes part of the morning. The images may blur, but the feeling remains. Perhaps you were flying, now your feet are still, but your chest feels open. Perhaps you spoke to an old memory. Now the air holds something softer, like understanding. Perhaps you simply were aware and floating, carried by light. And now you carry that light into the day. The return from conscious dreaming is not a fall. It is a landing. And like all landings, it matters how you touch down. Many dreamers rush into waking life, alarmed by alarms, pulled by tasks, forgetting the tenderness of what just passed through them. But you don't have to rush. You can linger here even just for a moment. Let the dream echo. Keep your eyes closed and ask, "Where was I just now? How did it feel to be there?" What part of me is different now that I've returned? And listen, not for words, but for texture. Does your breath feel deeper? Is your chest lighter? Is there a new sound embers inside your thoughts? Lucid dreams leave imprints not just as memories, but as shifts in your awareness. You may notice more throughout your day. Colors feel sharper. Your response is slower, gentler because you've just practiced consciousness in its purest form. Awareness without effort. That awareness doesn't vanish with waking. It stays with you. A thin thread of gold woven into the fabric of your day. You might carry it into your morning walk, into your first sip of tea, into the gaze you offer someone you love. Lucid dreaming teaches presence, and presence is a gift you can keep unwrapped. Some dreamers keep a journal by their biers, not to analyze but to honor. A few lines, a sketch, a phrase that floated through the dream, still echoing as you stirred. This is how dreams speak. Not always in full sentences, but in symbols and sensations. You don't need to make perfect sense of them. You only need to listen. And in listening, you create continuity, a bridge between the night and the day, between the dreaming self and the doing self. This is integration, noticing that the courage you felt in the dream can be practiced in waking life, that the gentleness you offered a dream character might belong to you now in how you speak to yourself. The return becomes a ritual, not just waking up, but waking through a deepening. Even science nods to this. During the moments of waking, the brain shifts gears from the slower theta and delta waves of deep sleep to the faster rhythms of alertness. But in this liminal space, something special happens. The brain is still pliable, still impressionable. It's a moment of potential, an invitation. Whatever you attend to in those early waking minutes tends to linger. So let it be something kind. Let it be the memory of the sky you flew through, the voice of someone you forgave, the feeling of weightlessness that reminded you, you are not only body, you're also awareness. And that awareness can stretch into your day, into your posture, into how you respond to interruption, into how you listen without rushing to reply. You carry the dream in the way you walk, the way you breathe. And when stress rises, you might remember the space inside the lucid dream, wide and quiet and open. You can pause, breathe, return to yourself even without sleep. Because conscious dreaming isn't only a night practice. It's a way of seeing, a way of choosing. And waking becomes part of the dream's arc. Not an ending, but a soft return. So, as you open your eyes, as the room becomes real again, let it be gentle. Touch the pillow. Feel the warmth of your body. Know that you are still whole, still dreaming in some way and dreaming awake. Let the lessons of the night move with you, not as tasks, but as reminders. You are a traveler between worlds and both are yours. Next, we drift toward the future of this practice. How dream science continues to evolve, and how your own journey may deepen with time if you continue to listen to what your sleeping self has to say. The world of sleep is not shamed anymore. Scientists are listening softly, gently. They are learning to hear the language of dreams. And lucid dreaming, once the realm of poets and seekers, is now studied under lights and wires, in quiet labs filled with rhythm and RM. This chapter is a gentle walk through that unfolding future, where dreaming meets data, and where the mystery becomes a map. Lucid dreaming is not new. Ancient texts from Greece, India, and Tibet speak of dream awareness, of flying spirits and conscious sleepwalkers. But only recently has science begun to take it seriously. In the 1970s and 80s, researchers like Keith Hearn and Stephen Lurge demonstrated that lucid dreamers could signal their awareness with eye movements left, right, from within REM sleep. This was a breakthrough. For the first time, the waking world could watch someone dream with intention. Since then, studies have grown and small, careful, quietly hopeful. Sleep labs now use EEG machines to track brain waves and fMRI scans to see which parts of the brain light up during lucid states. They've found something fascinating. Lucid dreaming activates parts of the brain usually quiet during sleep, like the prefrontal cortex, the seat of reasoning and self-awareness. This suggests that conscious dreaming is not a glitch. It's a unique hybrid state, a dreaming mind with waking awareness. And this state has potential. Researchers are exploring how conscious dreaming can be used in therapy for treating nightmares, building confidence, even working with grief. For example, someone with recurring trauma dreams can be trained to become lucid and change the ending. Turn the chase into a conversation, bring light to the shadow. It doesn't erase the pain, but it can restore a sense of agency, a sense of I can stay, I can choose, I am. Lucid dreaming is also being studied as a tool for rehearsal, practicing public speaking, sports, or difficult conversations in a space free of consequence. Athletes have reported refining skills in lucid sleep. Musicians have composed in their dreams. Even language learners practice vocabulary, dreaming in new tongues before their waking brain catches up. And perhaps most surprisingly, scientists are now communicating with dreamers while they sleep. In recent studies, lucid dreamers have been asked questions, simple math or yes, no queries, and responded with pre-agreed eye movements or facial twitches back and forth. A dialogue across the veil of sleep. It's early, fragile, but real. This opens an almost unimaginable possibility, two-way communication between the sleeping and the waking world. Imagine therapists supporting trauma processing in real time. Imagine researchers exploring cognition in the soft architecture of a dream. Of course, there are ethical questions. Sleep is said private. It must be protected. Lucid dreaming is not a technology. It is a human experience. Delicate, ancient, and deeply personal. As we move into the future, we must walk with care. Still, the potential is profound. Tools are emerging to support lucid dream induction. Gentle masks that flashlight during RM apps that track sleep rhythms and play dream-friendly sounds at just the right moment. BOF feedback techniques, meditation practices, supplements like galantamine used with caution. Each tool offers a bridge, but the dream remains yours. No device can create lucidity. Only you, your intention, your presence, your willingness to notice when the impossible begins to feel familiar. Because that's often how lucidity begins. A street bends the wrong way. A book's words rearrange. You float instead of fall. And then you remember, I'm dreaming. The future may bring clearer methods, more reliable paths. Lucid dreaming could become a skill taught in schools alongside mindfulness, sleep hygiene, emotional awareness. Why not? If children could learn to face nightmares not with fear but with curiosity, what kind of resilience might that build? If adults could process regret through symbolic dream dialogues, what kind of peace might they find? Lucid dreaming in this light becomes not an escape but a return to self, to awareness, to the inner guide that waits when the world grows quiet. It also holds promise in palliative care, helping those nearing the end of life find meaning, reconciliation, comfort in their final dreams. For many, dreaming becomes vivid near death. Lucid dreams in this space can feel like farewells, like doorways. Researchers are listening. Caregivers are learning to ask, what did you dream last night? What did it show you? This is a future shaped not only by science but by compassion. And the best part, you are part of it. Every time you dream lucidly, you contribute to this unfolding path. You carry your dream stories not just for yourself, but for the greater dreaming mind we all belong to. You might keep a journal. You might teach a friend how to notice dream signs. You might simply tell a child, your dreams matter. And they do. The dreaming mind is vast. We have only begun to walk its edges. What lies ahead? Perhaps group conscious dreaming retreats. People sleeping side by side and tending to meet in shared landscapes. Perhaps virtual dream libraries, not just stories, but emotional maps of sleep. Perhaps a new kind of lit heresy, one that values symbols, sensations, the quiet language of the night. But even if none of that arrives, conscious dreaming remains a gift. Here now, a space where you remember yourself as more than your to-do lists, your plans, your titles. You're also a dreamer, and that will always matter. Next, we turn towards something tender, the healing power of lucidity. How dreams become a sanctuary for grief, for fear, for deep emotional care. There is a room in your dream that knows what you're carrying. You may not have seen it before, but it waits for you like a hand open in the dark. Inside, there is no noise, just breath, just stillness, just a space to let something soften. Lucid dreaming is not always bright skies and weightless flight. Sometimes it is a quiet return to something inside you that still aches. And in that return, there is healing. When you dream lucidly, you bring consciousness to the places that need it most. Memories, patterns, emotions that have waited patiently to be seen. It is not about control. It is about care. You may enter a dream and find yourself face to face with someone you've lost. Not in fantasy, but in presence. Their voice is clear, their eyes are knowing, and you feel something settle, as if a missing piece is gently turned in your chest. Lucid dreamers often report healing moments like this. Encounters that feel more real than imagination, more spacious than memory. They cry in their sleep and wake feeling lighter. Science has begun to notice this too. Lucid dreaming is being explored as a tool for emotional regulation. By consciously engaging with difficult dream content, you reduce the fear and increase understanding. It's called rescripting, a way of gently rewriting traumatic narratives, not to erase them, but to walk through them again with safety, support, and awareness. In one study, people with recurring nightmares learned to become lucid within the dream. When the nightmare returned, they didn't run. They turned around. They asked the figure what it wanted. They stayed, and the nightmares began to shift into dialogue, into release, into something resembling peace. Lucidity doesn't stop pain, but it can offer you something rare, the chance to respond with choice, to stand calmly in the center of a storm and whisper, "I'm here now. I know this isn't real, but what does it want me to feel?" Sometimes healing happens not through action, but through witnessing. You sit with an old version of yourself, a child, a teenager, a version still holding shame or silence, and you simply stay. You offer presence, no fixing, no rushing, just love. That is medicine. And your brain, even in sleep, responds to that care. Studies show that emotional experiences in lucid dreams can activate similar neural circuits as real-life therapy or resolution. The heart doesn't always know the difference. So if you forgive someone in a dream or speak a truth you've held inside, your body feels it. Your breath deepens, your nervous system softens, something opens, and when you wake, you bring that shift with you. This is the subtle power of lucid healing. Not dramatic, not immediate, but integrative. It weaves into your waking days like thread through a quiet seam. You may find yourself reacting differently, pausing where you once rushed, smiling where you once closed because part of you has seen something, held something, heard something that needed to be known. Lucid dreaming can also be a space for grief to breathe. When someone you love is gone, they may return in your dreams. And if you're lucid, you may recognize the moment for what it is, a gift. You don't need to explain it. You just sit with them, hold their hand, say what was left unsaid. It's not the same as having them back, but it is something. A kindness from your own mind to your healing heart. Grief, trauma, fear, longing, these live deep inside us. And dreams are one way the body speaks them into awareness. Lucid dreaming lets you respond with tenderness. You might visit a place that once held pain and see it bathed in new light. You might ask the dream itself, "What do I need to heal?" And the answer may come in image, feeling, or word, or silence. Silence can be healing too. Some dreamers build sanctuaries, recurring safe spaces they return to in lucid sleep. A forest, a warm room, a quiet lake. These spaces become inner temples where healing can happen slowly night by night. No pressure, just return, just rest. You don't have to solve anything in one dream. Healing is not a checklist. It is a relationship with yourself, with your past, with your sleeping mind. And lucidity deepens that relationship through presence. You might wake up not with answers, but with a feeling that you were held. That something inside you moved. That is enough. Tonight, as you drift into sleep, you might whisper, "If there is something within me that needs attention, I am willing to listen." You don't need to search. You only need to receive. Your dreams know what they are doing. and lucidity is your way of walking gently beside them hand in hand. Next, we arrive at the final chapter, a quiet closing, a return to wonder, and a reminder that the dreaming mind is never far away. Welcome back, dreamer. You've traveled far through quiet forests of the mind into the architecture of memory and across the luminous fields of lucid sleep. Now you stand once again at the threshold, that soft edge between the world within and the world that waits outside your eyelids. But something is different now because you've seen what lies behind the curtain of dreams, the symbols that shimmer in silence, the emotions that bloom in midnight color, the awareness that watches even while the body rests. Lucid dreaming has offered you a key not to force doors open, but to walk through them gently, with wonder, with care. Each night, your mind paints a world from your deepest rhythms. And now you know how to meet that world with open eyes, even while sleeping. You've learned how his dreams can heal, how they can reflect, how they can guide you, not with logic but with love. In lucid sleep, you've practiced courage, facing old fears, speaking truths, changing stories that once seemed written in stone. And in doing so, you've softened the borders between who you are and who you're becoming. This is the beauty of awareness. It grows quietly like light seeping under a door. And now as your breath settles and your body folds deeper into rest, you carry this awareness with you, not as a burden but as a comfort. Because dreams are not gone when morning comes. They live beneath your thoughts. In the quiet ways you listen, the gentler ways you respond. Every dream, lucid or not, becomes part of the rhythm of your life. And tonight, as sleep calls again, you may feel that rhythm like a tide, soft, slow, pulling you inward. You don't need to plan your dream. You don't need to force your awareness. Simply notice, gently wonder. Maybe your hands will glow with lucidity. Maybe a stranger will remind you that you are dreaming. Maybe you will fly. Or maybe you will simply rest deeper than before, soothed by the knowing that even your dreams are companions. And remember, you can always return here to this voice, this pace, this quiet practice of dreaming with presence. This is the end of our story for now, but not the end of your dreaming, not even clue. The Sleepy Narrator will be here again soon with a new journey, a new story, a new place for your mind to wander as your body lets go. So stay tuned for the next video where we'll gently drift into another corner of the cosmos. Another quiet question, another scientific lullaby made just for you. Until then, rest well, sleep kindly, and let your next dream begin.